What do you make of the overall, and I suppose they might still be coming, we'll see what happens with Australia, whether they need to come with the Ukrainian president, but the commitments on weapons, on in particular ammunition that Ukraine is desperate for, because this is still a very old-fashioned battle, isn't it, in terms of stores of ammunition. It can be that simple. How many live rounds do you have for this offensive Ukraine is attempting?
I have to declare an interest here. I'm the Deputy Chair of Talis Australia, and we make munitions for the Australian Army. Having put that to one side, on the battlefield in Ukraine, there are days when there are artillery rounds in numbers not seen since the Battle of the Somme on the Western Front in 1916. That's how heavy the fighting is in terms of the artillery. So we have a circumstance in which the kit that we've supplied to Ukraine, particularly the Bushmasters, have been entirely appropriate to their security needs. What has changed, of course, is the commitment of the RAAF's Wedgetail, which is highly sophisticated kit in terms of look down upon the battlefield. And it is designed to make sure that the hubs through which Western aid, both lethal and non-lethal, is passing to Ukraine are not subject to threat or to assault. Now, this is a different dimension in terms of a technical step up for Australia, with 100 personnel approximately, and the Wedgetail being committed for the next 6 months. This is a change in our support for Ukraine, and it is not the first time that Wedgetail has been deployed, obviously, but in terms of being in a conflict zone, this is a major step forward for Australia in terms of its assistance to Kyiv.
Yeah, being on the very edge of that conflict zone, not quite going inside it to avoid any sort of ramifications. I do appreciate you expressing that or noting that interest that you have. I might come at this finally from a different angle. What can NATO and the US and other countries offer, given the uncertainty now over Vladimir Putin's leadership? There's a lot of tough talk, but what about the olive branch to alternative Russian leaders, to the Russian people? We will be offering an olive branch. We do want Russian people to have better lives if it can be led by a different person.
The problem there, Tom, and I agree with it, we would very much like to see in re-engagement with the Russian people, who are by and large magnificent in terms of their warmth, in terms of their generosity. They're just led by a rotten clique of gangsters, or as we saw in the Kremlin recently, with the mercenaries arriving in strength to meet Putin, different gangs, Prigozhin on the one side, Putin on the other. The difficulty there is there's no guarantee that Putin will be replaced by someone better. Certainly not someone committed to a democratic Russia, given that most of Putin's democratic opponents are either dead or in jail. So that's a difficulty. What we really need to do at NATO level, at the level of the West, and I agree with President Macron's remarks some months ago, we can't humiliate Russia. We have to look to creating a diplomatic off-ramp whereby negotiations can proceed and the war can be brought to
probably
a conclusion.
Probably a more realistic exit. Sometimes I like to go, might call it glass overflowing. Stephen Loosley, thank you.